All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third show of Sunny Days Media football show. Once again on a Thursday night under the lights. My co-host tonight, Chris from CPMY Sports. Um, so tonight we're gonna go through a little recap of Week 1. We're gonna jump into tonight's game between the Vikings and the Eagles in Philadelphia. And then we are going to close the show out with some of our bets that we like tonight. Some stuff that we kind of like Sunday, maybe that you wanted to monitor because a lot of these lines are changing as injury reports are coming out, and a lot of that stuff is changing. So let's just get right into it. Chris, week 1, we'll start with your Giants. What did you see? What did you not a lot to like, I guess, but get into it.
Nothing to like, really. I mean, there's not one single thing that I liked about that game. Um, what really irked me the most was the inability to get back up after the Cowboys, punched the Giants in the face on the blocked field goal touchdown. That was a concern to me. They had a great opening drive, one low snap, changed it all. Obviously, Cowboys went unblocked on that field goal, but it was just the inability to change the narrative, change the momentum after that touchdown. Mike Kafka, our offensive coordinator, deviated away from Saquon in the run game when Saquon had, he was looking great on that first drive, and he deviated from the run game for Lord knows why. And the offensive line just crumbled at that point. On that field goal touchdown play, not only did our kicker get hurt chasing down the guy who presumably took it all the way, but our star left tackle Andrew Thomas also got hurt. He hurt his hamstring on that very play. So a lot of things can change in just one play in football. Everyone knows that. The rest of the game was pretty much misery. Micah Parsons, that whole defensive line was eating. 7 sacks on Daniel Jones, pressures on 62 to 63% of the overall snaps, the overall dropbacks. Absolutely pitiful performance. Special teams horrible. Graham Gano missed a field goal later down, later in the game. So it was a horrible performance. I moved on to week 2. Not much to really analyze. If you pay attention to my channel, I did have a live stream trying to just have a therapy session, analyzing what went wrong for the Giants in such a highly anticipated matchup. So from going from excited for the season to now questioning whether we can turn this thing around in week 2, I'm definitely weary, but I think Arizona is a great opponent to do that against. So we'll see what happens in week 2.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you heard it a lot this week, like on New York Sports Radio. I think like that's one of those games that you kind of like look at yourself in the mirror after, right? So like in retrospect, it's week 1, right?
Yeah.
Like as excited as I was when the Lions beat the Chiefs, like it's still week 1. It's not indicative of the rest of your season. Um, and it's like it's all a matter of like they got punched in the mouth, like you said, and they just never got up in that game. What you do with the rest of the games remaining is on you, right? Like this is a team that won 10 games last year, definitely overachieved. Um, and so like and they only got better this offseason, right? You got rid of some dead weight, Kenny Galladay, and I don't know who else kind of left the team this season, but
That
like
was a dead weight, pretty much. That was the
all
dead
dead
weight.
weight, right? And like you had a great draft, but a lot of those guys were developmental. You know what I mean? And I think like when Dable took over in New York, it wasn't something like I think last year they were playing with house money. I said it to every Giants fan, and it like wasn't me being
100%.
salty. It's just like you're playing with house money. Like you weren't as bad as you expected to be, but I think the Giants were also not as good as the way their fans were talking in the end of the season. You know what I mean? Like
Agreed.
you beat you went out and you won a playoff game, but it was also a fraudulent Vikings team. That's not to move a goalpost. You still won a playoff game, right? Like,
Sure.
I'm 27. I've been following the Lions for over a decade. Like I still haven't seen a playoff win, so I'm not poo pooing that. But like they definitely they overachieved. but in the end, they kind of realized like, okay, there's a lot of work to do. So getting back to this game, this is like as cliche as it is, it's a bury the tape game. I don't even know if I mean I'm sure they went over film, but like I also wouldn't be surprised if Dable didn't even go over the film because like all around it was a horseshit job. And
Yeah.
what you do from here is going to define the rest of your season. And if there's a bounce back game to have, like it's Arizona. It sucks that you have to fly across the country to play that game, but that's the best bounce back game you could really ask for. You know what I mean? And like the one thing I didn't get, maybe you could kind of shine a light on this because I didn't see the whole game. I also went to bed at half, but I saw that Danny played like into the fourth.
Yeah, it was bogus.
Like,
That stunt that Brian Dable pulled was
yeah.
bogus.
Like
That's that
why was he out there?
there was no explanation given. There was literally no explanation given, and it is something that was just very negligent. And I don't really have any sort of negative feedback much, on Brian Dable. I love Brian Dable. I think he's changed the culture of this organization. I've said that time and time again, but that is a decision that makes me question him just a little bit because like you saw it with the Bengals in week 1. They were getting routed, they were down by even less than what the Giants were down by when they took Joe Burrow out. And they protected their contract quarterback, right? So why are you not doing the same thing for Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones just got sacked 7 times in that game. He was on the ground the whole time. He was running for his life the whole time. So I don't understand that. And to go and piggyback off your original point as well on the Giants playing with house money last season, as much as this might be a sort of coping mechanism sort of take, we are still playing with house money in year 2 of Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen this year. And I think that a lot of people will go and say, hey, we won a playoff game. We're supposed to be automatic contenders this year. Well, that's not really how it works in terms of player development. You look at Evan Neal. We're year 2 of Evan Neal. You look at Trey Hawkins. We're starting 2 rookie cornerbacks on the outside. This is still very much a developmental year. And I don't think many Giants fans want to admit that. I think next year, year 3, if Brian Dable and Joe Schoen regime and year 2 of a lot of our rookies from this past draft class, which I agree, I think they knocked this draft class out of the park. That will be more of a season where we can say, hey, listen, the Giants should be legitimate contenders next year.
Yeah, and like like that's the other thing that not that it's like you always want to see your team go far. Like you never want to see them lose or whatever. But like that was just a misconception because you had like I had Giants fans telling me like they made it to the divisional round last year. Like next year they should be in the NFC Championship. No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't because you're not there yet.
Not how it works.
Right. And like not only that, going back to the draft, the guys that you like, I believe, right? We did some scouting this year for the draft. We didn't have a show for it. We did a Twitter space. And so me and Anthony, who's on our Sunday show, we essentially we split it up, right? Anthony took the offensive prospects in the first round, and I took the defense. And in my scouting, and I'm not a scout, so in my tape that I watched, I should say, like the guy that stood out to me the most in the secondary of all the secondary players was Deonte Banks. And I wanted Deonte Banks. Like I wanted him so because Detroit had an obvious need at corner. We had just signed some guys, but they were kind of all the 1-year deals with the exception of Sutton. And long story short, like Deonte Banks was the guy I watched that like I thought definitely got better through the season and showed out in the games that like were the most meaningful. And he's from Maryland, right?
Yeah, he's from Baltimore. Baltimore native, went to Maryland.
Maryland, right? Okay, so like Joey Porter Jr. was the other guy that everybody was talking about, and I liked Joey Porter Jr. But when I was like coming away from his highlights, like there wasn't much on film that and maybe I missed some stuff, but like there wasn't a whole lot of like great anything that I saw when they played Michigan and when they played Ohio State. Like if you're a Big Ten team, that's the measuring stick. Just like if you're in the SEC, the measuring stick is Alabama, Georgia, maybe LSU. Like if you can only control who you play. I mean, you can only control like who you're up against, and that's it. Whatever. So, like when I watched Joey Porter Jr., his highlights were like Purdue, Indiana, and like, yeah, nothing against those schools, but they're not legit, right? Like, and none of those guys that he's lining up against, he's not going to see any caliber of those guys in the NFL. When you're
Sure.
lining up against Ohio State, when you're lining up against Michigan, one or two of those guys, actually, if you're Ohio State, like all three of those guys are going to
Mhm.
wind up in the NFL, right? So, like, that's what I wanted to see. And I just feel like I didn't really see that from Joey Porter. From Deontay, what I saw was raw speed, good footwork. He got fooled a couple of times. Okay,
Yep.
like he's a college kid. That's going to happen, right? It's good to see smarts, but like I could deal with that. I as a fan, but like one thing you can't teach speed. One thing you can't teach is speed, right? So we're going to talk about Darius Slay a little bit on the Eagles, right? Like that's what was so great about Slay coming out of Mississippi State and you know in Detroit for so long. Like his speed was that's what kept him there. And like if you're a corner, that's probably your number one attribute, you know, is
Yep.
your speed, right? That like that's why the drop off, you know, you see that drop off in corners from age 27, 28 to whatever 30. Like that's why half these guys aren't in the NFL anymore after that, you know. And so going back to your draft, like I loved Banks. But what I also said to Giants fans was this guy's a project. Like he's not gonna, I think 2-3 years from now, he might be the best guy in the secondary out of that draft. Right now, it's not going to look like that. And I saw the reverse with Witherspoon. I really like Witherspoon. He has like a bunch of shit you can't teach, right? Hard hitter, he's fast, good awareness, but like I didn't see that natural. I mean, there's natural ability in Witherspoon, but like I saw a professional cornerback in Deontay Banks. I didn't see it right now at 22 years old. I think 23, 24, that's going to be that sweet spot. Um, a lot of these guys, like they're developmental, and that's okay. If you're the Giants, that's okay. You know, you can't like to me, the Giants, I still think they're a 9-10 win team. And if that gets you into the
We'll
playoffs,
see.
well,
Yeah,
I,
we'll
I
see.
think like when I look at that roster and when I look at Brian Dable, like that's what I see. I think Brian Dable like truly makes up for a lot of those, you know, mistakes and like, you know, the talent. The one thing I will say, which was a concern, and it's once again, it's just week one. Daniel Jones, right? Like it's all well and good when you're on that rookie deal to have those like shit games and and honestly, like the guy had no time to throw. And Saquon didn't have his best game either, right? So like all around it was bad, but now the expectations are kind of turned up a little bit when you're making $40 million a year, I think, somewhere in that ballpark. When you get that contract extension, like now there is a level of expectation. You're no longer just supposed to play well, you're supposed to carry the team at times. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm not saying he won't do that, but that's the expectation. And especially in this town, you're going to get killed. Like if you do not meet those expectations, you will get killed, you know?
Oh, no, I mean, two things. I'll get into Daniel Jones here in just a second before we move on. I think we're going to talk about the Jets here as well, but Deontay Banks as well. Just the comparison to Joey Porter Jr. is hilarious because I literally was scouting both those guys as well because I was like, hey, listen, we had 4 wide receivers off the board right before we drafted last year. And I was like, all right, we got to get going defensive back here. And so I was like, Joey Porter Jr. or Deontay Banks because I heard a lot about Deontay Banks about how he can fit into Wink Martindale's system. And just the overall excitement that the reports were getting leaked out that the Giants were really interested in Deontay Banks. And so he's done really well this season, I will say. The only thing that I saw from him so far is that he has work to do on his aggression and physicality off the line. That is one thing immediately glaring that he needs to work on. His speed makes up for it, and he uses too much of that speed to make up for it, 5-10 yards out once the route's already begun. But the aggression, physicality off the line needs work. I think they targeted him twice before he got injured in Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, excuse me. Didn't let up a single catch. Unfortunately, went down with an injury. Believe it was an ankle/cramp. I don't think that was officially disclosed what it was, but think he's day to day. I think he's listed as questionable as well moving forward. So I'm not sure if he's going to miss any time. 2, the point on Daniel Jones. Yes, agreed 100%. There's 2 sides of the story, and I see Giants Twitter split on Daniel Jones. You have even Giants Twitter has their own hatred for Daniel Jones, and they always have, right? Because he's a Dave Gettleman pick. He was drafted higher than he probably should have. All that is very well documented. We all know that, and me as a Daniel Jones supporter will also document that and go on record saying that I agree with that. But it comes a point in time where you have to set aside your bias in terms of, the guy leading your team, right? As a fan. At least that's how I fan. I'm not here to fan police anybody, but that's how I believe fanhood should work, and that's how I live by it. I do still believe in Daniel Jones. I don't think anything that I saw out of week 1 Daniel Jones is indicative to what I'll see, throughout his deal this year or next year, or even for the rest of the season. He made some boneheaded plays. He missed some guys. He missed some reads. That one pick he threw to Stephon Gilmore when he should have just thrown it out of bounds, scrambling to his right, dumb. 100% dumb. That is something that I didn't see at all from Daniel Jones last season, which is why he put together one of the most picture perfect seasons so far that I've seen out of him in at the professional level. Yes, his offensive line didn't do him any justice. That is 100% well documented as well. But just sheerly grading a quarterback, taking out the external factors of the offensive line, he did not put together a great game. And I will go on record and say that as well. Because listen, at the end of the day, this guy's my quarterback, but I will grade him accordingly. And I will grade him according to the standard that I think he should be playing at, given now his new deal, right? So 100%, Daniel Jones did not have a great performance, did not have a great showing. He looked flustered out there for many reasons. And I just think the team wasn't prepared to go out there. And I think that falls on coaching a little bit too. You had all this time. You knew you had the Dallas Cowboys division rivals circled prime time Sunday Night Football week 1. And to get smacked like that right across your face. And I mean, I'm looking at videos of these Cowboys defenders on the bench saying, you get a sack, everybody gets a sack. Let's make these guys quit before halftime. That is embarrassing. That is actually embarrassing. And not only is it embarrassing to me as a fan, because I don't care. I didn't spend my hard-earned money on that game to go to that game. I know a lot of people did, and I feel bad for them, but that should be embarrassing to you moving forward as a Giants player, moving on to Arizona.
In your own building.
In your own building. That should be bulletin board material, looking
100%.
back on your Twitter timeline, seeing Cowboys fans or Cowboys players during the game say that you should quit by halftime. So, no, I 100% agree. I think it's a week that we all want to sort of move past, forget. And like I said, it's not indicative to the way I think this Giants season is going to go. But I really do think that this season is going to be made or broken by the offensive line, predominantly our right guard and right tackle situation being Mark Lanowski, Evan Neal, or anybody else that they decide to sign in the meantime to relieve either one of those of their duties. And it's not going to be Evan Neal because it's year 2, but Mark Lanowski on his 3-year, $18 million deal. Absolute joke. By the way, Mark Lanowski, 1.0 pass blocking grade from PFF. 1.0. Horrible.
That's nuts.
Horrible.
Yeah, so listen, to sum it up, Arizona's the get right game. Go in there, take care of business, and that shouldn't be a down to the wire win. I'm not saying you have to blow them out, but that shouldn't be a down to the wire win. That should be a convincing game you're in control of. I want to see Daniel Jones get back on track. And I honestly it's another cliche thing, but like, feed Saquon the ball. I want to see Saquon come out of this game with over 100 rushing yards. I don't really care about touchdowns with him. I want to see him pound the rock for 4.5 yards a carry in this game. That's what he should be doing. And you know what? Yes, the get right game is Arizona, but like, if you watched Arizona's game against the Commanders last week, and maybe
they're not a joke.
I mean, maybe Washington's a joke. I don't know. But like, Arizona did not look like a joke in their game against Washington. They definitely surprised me.
I was watching.
They
I was watching.
Helped out everybody in a survivor pool that advanced and did not take Washington. Um, moving on to probably a bigger disaster, the New York Jets. Um,
When are they not a disaster?
hey, listen,
That's the bigger question.
you're talking to a Lions fan, so I really shouldn't throw stones in a glass house. But um, this sucks. Like,
Yeah, it does.
absolutely sucks.
Mhm.
An entire off season. Um, listen, it's been said. It's been said. There's nothing that hasn't been said that at this point, if you're a Jet fan, you're watching this, like I'm beating a dead horse. Here's what I will say about this. A, your season's not over. Like, contrary to what Salicata says, which I don't even know how that guy still has a job. Contrary to what Geo on WFAN said, I don't even listen to that station anymore. That's all bullshit noise. Like, the Jets have a legit defense, and a legit run game. Like, Brees Hall is no joke. Garrett Wilson, right, is no joke. Dalvin
Oh,
Cook, you hope,
dog.
is gonna get going. Michael Carter is a damn good number 3 running back. Like, Michael Carter would start on a lot of teams. So if you're the Jets, like, you could be upset, and I get it, Jet fans. Like, I get it. I get it, right? But you did this with Mark Sanchez in 09 and 2010. Like, Mark Sanchez, like, recency bias is going to change what maybe some Jet fans are going to say about this, but like, Mark Sanchez was awful. He was awful. Okay. And I mean, it's a little different because the 2009 and 2010 Jets, in my lifetime, I've never seen a better offensive line than those two lines. They were unbelievable. To Brickashaw Ferguson, Nick Mangold at center. Those are the only two I can name off the top of my head. But like, you did this before. You went to 2 straight AFC championships with no quarterback. Mark Sanchez was probably worse than no quarterback. I think I'd rather just have a running back play quarterback and run the Wildcat. Like, his job was to not turn the ball over. If Zach Wilson can just play relatively consistent football, don't turn the ball over, rely on your run game. I know it sucks. Like, but these are the cards you're dealt. There's nothing you could do about it. The Giants and Jets are not changing the turf at MetLife anytime soon. That's not going to be done. So stop whining about that. I know it sucks, but it is what it is, right?
That's not what contributed to Aaron Rodgers' injury,
No,
though.
but
So
that's what we keep hearing on Twitter. That's what we
right,
keep hearing
right,
on
right.
WFAN, ESPN radio. So like,
Yeah,
these are the cards you're dealt, and you have a good team. There's no reason this Jets team, in my eyes, shouldn't win 9 or 10 games this year. Like, unless Zach Wilson totally falls apart, like, which he could do, which that would be the reason.
he
But
did it
like,
last year.
yes. But Chris, would you agree with me? If Zach Wilson just plays consistent football, like, doesn't have to throw like, literally could throw 1 touchdown a game, just don't turn the ball over. If he does that, his defense is going to keep teams within 20 points. What do you think?
That
Like, am I
that
crazy?
that def No, I mean, I drafted the Jets defense in all my fantasy leagues for a reason. I mean, they showed out against Buffalo. They made Josh Allen. He was seeing ghosts out there. I mean, if you talk about someone seeing
Right.
ghosts, Josh Allen was seeing
Right.
ghosts out there. Whitehead three interceptions, and then Josh Allen bonehead fumble. But no, I agree with you. I just don't see that in Zach Wilson. I don't see any progression. I know he at least kept them in it, but really, he didn't really keep him in it. The Josh Allen kept him in the game, because if it was up to Josh Allen, he should have iced that game before it even ended, right? So, no, I agree with you. The Jets defense is 100% elite, top 3 defense in the league. I don't see them making the playoffs with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. I don't. I don't think so. Because I think that this
Yeah.
season is going to mirror exactly the way their season went last year under Zach Wilson. And I don't see him taking any leaps and bounds strides above what he performed like last season. And we all know, after they got off to a hot start, how that season quickly unfolded for them. And they got a real dose of reality. And I think that, to be honest with you, I know Aaron Rodgers is going to be out there mentoring Zach Wilson. And I'm not saying to give up on Zach Wilson, But I think that you have to gauge what your realistic expectations or wants are if you're the Jets front office right now. Are you going to go and accept another developmental year to get Zach Wilson more reps? Or are you going to say, hey, enough's enough? We tried our best with Aaron Rodgers. Didn't work out for this year. Let's go sign another vet quarterback and make a playoff run. Because that's the decision they're going to have to make. They're not making a playoff run with Zach Wilson. And I am confident about that.
Um, yeah, I mean,
That's my honest take.
yeah, no, I'm not going to call you crazy for that. Maybe I'm just being hopeful because I have a ton of friends that are Jet fans, obviously. Um, my only, the only thing I would say in regards to that, I have three things on this. Like, there's a reason, and he hasn't shown us yet. So I'm going to preface this with he hasn't shown us yet. But there's also a reason Zach Wilson went second overall. Like, the talent is 100% there. The decision making,
BYU.
right. Decision making is not there. The attitude last year was definitely not there, but the talent is there, right? And it's on him and this it's on the coaching staff to put him in the position to do those things, and it's on him to hopefully humble up and realize you're only playing because the Hall of Famer in front of you just ripped his Achilles out, right? And his career, like, this is going to define his career. Firmly believe that. If he does not do a thing this year, that means that they're probably gonna. I mean, they're probably not gonna lose enough to get Caleb Williams, but he's gone. Like, even if they don't know what's going on with Rodgers, if he can't get it done this year, he's gone because everything's in place in front of him. The line is not the best, but like outside of that, you have some of the best skill positions in the game, and you probably have the best defense in the NFL from what we've seen. The second thing on this is somewhat of a silver lining is that, like, Jet fans, you really don't know how good Aaron Rodgers was going to be this year. Like, if you could at least think about that, right? Like, the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers, yes, they went on that little run, but that wasn't really the best of it. Like, that was nowhere close to the best of Aaron Rodgers. Okay.
Yeah.
And like, a reminder, Jet fans, the last time Aaron Rodgers was like you know who his last completed pass was to in the NFL? You know it's completed to? Kirby Joseph. You know who that is? That's the Lions free safety. Okay. Like, that was his last pass in the NFL that was completed. Okay. Like, in that game with the season on the line, the Detroit Lions had nothing to play for. Now, Dan Campbell got him revved up. He got him going. But like, ultimately, the Packers should have won that game, and they didn't. And a lot of that was on Rodgers. The guy threw 2 or 3 picks in that game. Like, he looked awful. He looked absolutely awful. And the only progress he showed on offense was him getting bailed out by the officials. So, like, the silver lining in all of this is that you really don't know how good Rodgers is going to be. You really don't. I mean, you hope, but the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers out there, he wasn't very good. And the teams he lined up against last year and beat were not great teams. Like they weren't.
I'll take him over Zach Wilson, though. I'll say that.
No, Chris, 100%.
And I completely get where you're coming from. 100%.
100%.
I understand. Understood.
So that's the, like, the season's not over. You got to hang in there. There's nothing you could do about it. So sit back, watch, and you were going to wait till year 3 of the Aaron Rodgers experiment to see what Zach Wilson had anyway. So you know what? Move that up 2 years and just see what he's got.
So
right?
I will say this. I in that game against Buffalo, I did see glimpse of passes that I did like out of Zach Wilson. There were strong throws and he made the right read.
Right.
The sample size isn't there. But
Yeah.
I did see a couple of those plays that he said, listen, that's a great arm. And if he puts his, I don't know if it's mental. I really don't know if he just doesn't know
He
the
also had that
playbook.
bonehead pick to Milano. I mean, like,
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know how much
Yeah.
of this is him not knowing
Right.
the reads or just a mental thing of him being just jittery out there.
Right.
But I will say that we do know, I will say he does have the talent to put it together eventually.
Yeah.
I just don't
Yeah.
see him doing it this season. So it really is dependent on what the front office and the coaching staff wants the direction of this team to be. Because if they're going to want to make the playoffs, I'm telling you right now, I don't see Zach Wilson taking, no matter how good that defense is, I don't see him taking them to the playoffs, to be honest with you. And he single-handedly was the one that cost them a playoff chance last year. And that, guess what? That offensive line isn't great either, so they're not
No,
going to do him any
no.
favors
No,
either. So
that is a concern. Like, that is a concern. As much as
Yep.
Wilson has mobility, that line is not great. It's not awful, but it's
Yep.
certainly not great.
So what's the
Yeah.
situation? What are we looking at? You think that they should sign a veteran? Honestly, I think two names to throw out there just preliminarily. I put it on my
Yeah.
channel. I think you can get by with a Jacoby Brissett if you try to
Oh,
trade for him in Washington, serving, as a second stringer behind Sam Howell right now, or familiar face, second stringer in San Fran, Sam Darnold. Make a move for him. What do you think?
My only thing with both of those is that, like, I think of all the available guys, like, and when we say available, we mean like guys that are on other teams that would like. So people brought up Teddy Bridgewater. That's not happening. I don't think, right?
Mhm.
Detroit signed him for insurance for Jared Goff. The whole point of him was to be here in the event that Jared goes down. Even if the Jets were to give up a first round pick, which they won't, even if they were to do that for Teddy, I don't think the Lions take that, because if Jared goes down for any reason, now we're in the same position the Jets are in, right? Like, we need a quarterback. So I throw out Teddy. I think of all the options, I think Jacoby is definitely the best option. Like, the only thing, and he's the best option, it doesn't mean it's a great option, because
Yeah.
it's one thing to push all your chips into the middle. It's another thing to run to the ATM and get more money out of the bank account to throw more into the middle, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could lose your hand, walk away from the table, and come back and play tomorrow. What's harder to do is to take a killing. Like, so, like, you don't want to, you've already kind of mortgaged your future with Rodgers. Do you want to mortgage it even more on a guy
Did
that
they really though? I don't think they really did though. They're not sending draft compensation out there because Rodgers isn't playing.
they sent a second at least, I think, right? Wasn't it a first? And it was a first if he played 65% of snaps, which is now not happening.
Well, one draft pick isn't mortgaging your future.
So do they have a first round pick next year?
I believe they do, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that they retained that first round pick just due to Aaron Rodgers not meeting that
Right.
game threshold. I'd have to revisit the details of the deal, but I don't think that's quote unquote mortgaging their future though.
If anyone in the comments knows and wants to let us know, I'll put it up on the screen. I guess that does change it. I don't know. I mean, also too, like, over the course of a, now 16 game season, right? Because you already have week 1. How much of, okay, so Stevie Mack says, I believe it was 2 second rounders they had to give up. Okay. I mean, second rounders are still important. That also limits what more they could give up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Josh says he believes the Jets have their first for next year. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you, guys in the chat. Much appreciated. And thank you for tuning in. I also don't know, like, long term, the rest of the season, how much better Jacoby Brissett really makes you. It's definitely more of a, I mean, I guess I'm kind of going back and forth with it. I don't think it's awful. I think no matter what you do, it's in your best interest to sign a backup, like, right now, even if you're trading for someone. Like, Colt McCoy is out there. I saw a bunch of, the name that stuck out to me was Colt McCoy. Like, I would bring in Colt McCoy right now. I don't know why they haven't done that. That, to me, I'm not saying that he's going to light a fire under Wilson's ass, but, like, he's a competent backup. He could win you games. He won't win you a lot. I look at Colt as like a 50% guy, right? So if your quarterback's out for four weeks, he'll probably win you one or two of those games, which if you're a backup quarterback in the NFL, like Teddy Bridgewater is making a living off of that. He's making a living off basically winning half of the games he comes in for, which is awesome if you're a backup quarterback. Outside of those two guys, like I don't really see anything. Like you're not going to call Matt Ryan, you're not going to call Phil Rivers. I saw Ben Roethlisberger and Blake Bortles like floating out there, but Bortles hasn't played football in years.
Yeah,
Ben, Ben
that's
had
not.
nothing left. And like, I'm sorry, like I don't get into politics, but enough with the Colin Kaepernick shit. The guy hasn't played in 7 years. Like beyond any of the distractions, he hasn't played in 7 years. He hasn't played in 7 years. And the same with RG3. The guy, like did you see that clip of him talking about himself on First Take?
Who,
I think it was
RG3?
First Take or First Thing, whatever show he's on, First Things First on Fox. He
I
literally
did not
threw
see
his
it.
name out there and he was like, I think the quote was, and I guess I'm paraphrasing here, so don't quote me, but it was something along the lines of, I was talking to an NFL GM this offseason, and he told me I'm in shape to play football, but if I come in, I'm a distraction. This is what Robert Griffin III said about himself. And literally the two co-hosts with him, like, kind of smirked and almost started laughing. Like, nothing against Robert Griffin III. Man, you're in much better shape than me. Like, I got man tits. I'm aware, right? But like, bro, you can't throw anymore. Like you can't play quarterback anymore. This is like, if you're a pro athlete, like there's very few pro athletes that retired and could genuinely still play the game. Like if you love it so much that you're on TV talking about it every day, you really love this game, man. And if you could genuinely still play, I guarantee you'll make more as a backup quarterback than you will at Fox as an analyst. Like that's a fact, right? Backup quarterbacks are still
Well, those
getting
TV
like,
deals are getting those TV
yeah,
deals are
but
getting pretty rich
yeah,
now.
but he's not calling games,
Yeah,
is what I'm saying, right? So like,
sure.
you could still make 3.5, 4.5 million on a team if you were good enough to play. So like
True.
all this talk about, there's no options, man. There's Colt McCoy. Like that's your option on the free agency list.
You're not
And yes,
calling Carson Wentz?
what's that guy going to do? Like,
I,
I mean, I guess you could maybe you could make an argument for that. You
I
can make
mean,
an
if you're
argument
saying
for that.
Colt McCoy, I'm like, all right, Carson Wentz, you might as well take a stab at
But
too.
does Carson Wentz want to come in and be a backup? And like, hey, he's got no job, so maybe, but I agree
Well,
with
that's
you.
what I'm saying.
Carson's more talented.
The theme of this, what I'm saying, and my basis is surrounding this, is that I don't think that the Jets make the playoffs with Zach Wilson. This is either another experimental year by default because of the Rodgers injury, or they bring in a vet that gives them a better chance, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it's, I would say Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold probably is not as
No.
feasible. They made the decision for Trey Lance to part ways with him and keeping Darnold as their backup. So it really is a matter of whether they really want to make the playoffs and they're burning and itching, because I guarantee you they know that they're not making the playoffs with Zach Wilson either. But listen, all that aside, though, we're talking about this Rodgers injury, Rodgers injury, that. The bottom line is, so the two teams that we just talked about, the Giants and the Jets, Giants are 0-1, Jets are 1-0. Bottom line heading into week 2. So Jets start off the season with a bang, exciting fashion. They won the ball game, punt return TD in overtime. So we'll see what happens.
That's so weird. For some reason, two of the backgrounds that we made last night have disappeared, but whatever. We'll roll on. I agree with you, Chris. I think though the other option you could potentially think of is, which is not great because now you're depending on other people. You could wait to see where kind of the Vikings were playing tonight. See where the Viking season, the Buccaneer season, and the Rams season goes, because those are three teams that I think are going to be selling by the deadline. So like the only issue is the cap situation. I mean, Rodgers takes up a lot of money. I think the Jets have somewhere in the ballpark of like $10 million left in the cap on the season. So if you get like a guy like Kirk at midseason, you could probably swing that. And I think he's on a 1 year. He's on 1 year left over there. And I forgot how much he's making this year, but I want to say at the end of the year, or at the deadline, he's at about 10 million, give or take. So you could probably find a way if you move money around with bonuses and everything else to make that work. But outside of that, there's really not a lot of options. There's Zach Wilson, and that's kind of it. You can entertain the idea of Jacoby Brissett. I don't know what a trade for him would go for. Like I said, I think they should really be bringing in a backup. If that's Colt McCoy, if that's Carson Wentz, whoever that is, and yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I don't want to be dead horse. That's about all I got. Other surprises in week 1 around the league quickly. Commanders won. Like I said, that screwed over a lot of people's pools. Everyone looked very similar. A lot of offenses looked very kind of out of touch, not out of touch, but definitely not in sync. A lot of secondaries you saw kind of made a lot of mental errors. But listen, it's week 1. I think a lot of people came out of the Thursday night game between Detroit and Kansas City. And I had a buddy of mine, I called the next morning and he was like, honestly, I think both teams aren't good. Like, I think they're both like bad and sloppy. And I was like, well, it's week 1. And then sure enough, you look at the rest of week 1, I think almost every like betting under hit, with the exception of like Packers, Bears,
Pittsburgh, maybe,
and Dolphins, Chargers. What'd you say? Pittsburgh,
49ers?
yeah, because it was 30. Yeah, I mean, no, it was 30-7. I doubt the over under was that. True. Yeah, what was the over under at? The over under was at 41.5, right? So
so under hit.
I mean, like, you have to look at September like this. I look at September as any win you get in September, you want to walk out of September at a minimum 2-2, right? And like, because there's going to be sloppy calls, and there's going to be sloppy calls from officials, and there's going to be sloppy plays from your guys. So like, you want to walk out of there healthy and with 2 wins. If you come out of September like that, you could salvage your season. You could be okay. I mean, the Lions Kansas City game got so much coverage. Overall, I'm happy. I'd like to see more from my offense. The defense played out of their mind. I mean, I know Kelsey wasn't on the field. The one thing I will say about that is like, enough of this asterisk bullshit and like, oh, Kelsey wasn't in, Jones wasn't in. I don't want to hear any of it. Okay. Anytime I don't know about you, Chris, with the Giants, but like anytime the Lions lose, all I hear about is how much we suck. Okay. Yep. So I don't care who's in. I don't care who's not in. This is football. It's a physical game. It's a collision sport. Guys get hurt. And what do we always say? Next man up, right? So if you're going to say that to us when we lose, you better say it to Pat Mahomes on the other side of the field when they lose, okay? And it wasn't all – I know Kadarius Toney got all the coverage, but it wasn't all him. It really wasn't all him. So that's the only thing I would say about that game. Like, but ultimately, I really don't give a shit because 1-0 is 1-0. Doesn't matter if people want to put an asterisk next to it. The NFL doesn't, right? You get in on your record. So moving on to tonight's game. So tonight's game, Vikings travel to Philadelphia. Chris, were you able, I don't know if you have YouTube TV. Were you able to see any of the Vikings game Sunday against the Buccaneers?
I tuned in here and there. Yeah, I actually did. I was watching Red Zone actually.
Right. Okay.
So yeah. So I was watching Red Zone. Yeah. I mean, a close game. Baker Mayfield led the Buccaneers to a W, so it was good to see there. We'll see what the Buccaneers do this year. Their defense is still has it, but yeah, Vikings look sloppy, honestly. And Justin Jefferson didn't look too happy after the game. So
yeah. I listen, I wanted to take the Vikings in that game. I'm an asshole. I'm a mush. Nobody should take gambling advice from me. I'm still going to give you a lock of the night. That's probably not going to hit. So if you want to make some money, bet against me. Vikings, my lock was Vikings at 4.5. I changed it. I had Cleveland with the spread, which they killed. And I changed it last minute to Vikings -4.5, and they lost outright. Like, I thought walking into that game, 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins should throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Buccaneers look like shit. Man, was I
Frauds.
wrong. I was wrong. Couple things I had from that game. I really like, they had a couple of injuries. Their center's out. Madison. Madison's a guy they brought in to replace Dalvin Cook, who's now a New York Jet. Madison averaged 3.1 a carry, 34 yards on the ground, 10 yards in the air on 3 receptions. If you're the Vikings, Kirk Cousins is, he's decent, but your bread and butter is your run game. Like, that's what it should be, right? For all those years with Peterson and then Dalvin Cook after that, like, your bread and butter, if you want to win, if you're the Vikings, your bread and butter is your run game. If Madison can't rush tonight, I don't know. I mean, that Eagles defense is a little depleted, right? Bradbury's out. I'm going to go into the injury report. I had it.
Reed Blankenship's out.
Blankenship's out, right? Like, so two key guys in the secondary are out. So you probably, to kind of, well, we'll go into the bets later, but like, you might want to bet Justin Jefferson tonight. What do we think about the Eagles? Not a great week 1 against New England. You thought they'd run away with that game, but New England kind of had a chance in the end.
Yeah, just got complacent. It was crappy weather as well. Jalen Hurts had an uncharacteristic fumble there late in the game as well, to give the Patriots a shot at taking the lead. I think Mac Jones couldn't get the job done, but I'm not worried about the Eagles, man. As much as I hate to say it, they've got a complete team, and even with these guys out today, Blankenship and James Bradbury, they're still going to win this game. I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't win this game. Their front seven is scary enough. No matter who they throw out there in the secondary, it don't really matter because the quarterback's going to have about a second, maybe a second and a half to throw the ball, and that's going to be that. You got Hassan Riddick, who tortured the Giants last year. I know about him all too well. That they magically got from Carolina at the beginning of last season. They just find a way to get these guys like AJ Brown, another trade target. DeAndre Swift. You let Miles Sanders go, you get DeAndre Swift, who should be getting a lot of carries tonight as well. We'll go over
3 yards last week, but yeah,
I get it. But I mean, Gainwell had most of their carries. But yeah,
right.
You got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. I mean, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham over there. As part of their linebacking. I mean, it's endless. It's endless depth, endless talent. So yeah, no, I mean, I think the Vikings are going to have their work cut out for them. I told you right before we started this that I don't trust old man Slay to guard Justin Jefferson. So I think that if you're taking any sort of bets today, and we'll get into it, I think Justin Jefferson's a safe bet. But you saw yesterday or last week in the Eagles secondary, there was 2 blown coverages. Kendrick Bourne had 2 touchdowns apiece. One with Darius Slay's assignment on him, on Kendrick Bourne. That was the second touchdown, and the first touchdown was the camera angle cut out. I don't know if you just put a move on James Bradbury, but James Bradbury was toast, and that was an easy touchdown for Mac Jones to get to Kendrick Bourne. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know how it plays out in terms of the secondary and how big of an impact they're going to have. I don't think they really need to today because I think the Eagles D line, their front 4 at least, has them covered. So we'll see.
Aaron tells us Kirk Cousins in prime time is always no bueno. Aaron, that is a very, very, very nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
There's a reason we call him 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said. In terms of a gambling perspective, I struggle with this. Probably also because I suck at gambling, but one of my buddies texted me before the game, before we came on, and he was like, what's your reaction tonight? I don't know, right? Because if I like anything, I'm going to be honest with all 5 people watching this right now, and you, Chris, so that makes 6, and myself 7. I can count.
There you go.
If I'm being honest, the only thing that really stands out to me is this over under of 48.5, and I'm probably going to change my mind before the end of the show, but like right now, that's the only thing I like, right? So like typically what I've learned, Thursday night football, it's usually the home team winning, and it's usually the under hitting, right? Teams don't have a lot of week to recover. They don't have a lot of time to recover. They don't have a lot of time to prepare. It's kind of a lot of basic everything out there, especially early in the season when both your offense and defense is not fully installed yet. Um, I definitely don't trust Kirk Cousins in this game, but I also don't like that the line started at 7.5 and it's down to 6. And like, I know that now guys are out on the Eagles, Bradbury and the Blankenship, the safety, but like Fletcher Cox now, right? He's out. You said
He's questionable.
he's questionable. All right.
Yep.
But like Vegas knows about this on Sunday anyway when these guys come off the field,
100%,
right? And
100%.
lines from what I saw, I'm looking at the lines from Tuesday on, right? So like, what changed from Tuesday to today that made you take 1.5 off? Off the giving the Vikings from 7.5 from over a touchdown to now 6. So I don't know if I guess kind of going into bets now, I like the under and I would lean toward Eagles -6. I wouldn't say it's a lock. I wouldn't say I love it, but if I have to bet on anything, it's Kirk Cousins failing and the Eagles doing enough, you know.
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, you've got the spreads covered. I don't really when I put these bets together, I don't really indulge in the spreads. I don't feel comfortable doing that because I think that I'd much rather bet my chances on player skill than the luck of how the game's going to fold out. So I will give people prop bets all day. I think the two locks here are Darius Slay versus Justin Jefferson, and I like Justin Jefferson a lot. He went for a touchdown last week, 150 yards, and I like his over. Whether you want to take it at 94.5, which is what it was slated at 3 p.m. when I checked.
94
I say do a little alt spread or a little alt bet. You take him 90 plus yards at -128. This is what it was at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And
What book,
also,
Chris?
I'll tell you right now, what's up?
What book was that? FanDuel?
FanDuel, yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'm gonna tell you right now, Justin Jefferson anytime TD. I'm gonna take that every week. I bet you every single week you bet Justin Jefferson anytime TD, and you do it all through all 17 games, you'll make more money than you lose. I bet you that. So I'm just gonna give me the Justin Jefferson TD. 1+110 on FanDuel. Two
Okay.
locks. Third, little parlay action, but it's a safe parlay for +151. You got AJ Brown 60 yards, alt bet. You parlay that with Hockenson 25 plus yards as your alt. I think he's slated at around 40, a little bit over 40 yards right now. And then you cap that off with DeAndre Swift 25 plus rushing yards. I think they're going to feed him the ball today with Kenneth Gainwell out. Those three parlayed together is +151. Now I'm gonna give you a dark horse bet here. This is gonna round out my betting. This is a dark horse. This is an absolutely shot in the dark. Throw $5 on it, whatever you want to do. I'm gonna call it the tight end parlay. You got Hockenson and Dallas Goedert anytime TDs.
Yeah.
I think Dallas Goedert is a guy who they're gonna target more. He had an abysmal week, and trust me, because I started him in fantasy, he got me 0 points, and he was the reason I lost. I think they target him more. He's at +220 right now, good value. And then Hockenson, I think Hawkinson's always a toss-up, and just the fact that those two tight ends have that matchup against one another. Hockenson coming off the brand new deal. He had 8 receptions last week, just couldn't find the end zone. He's at +210. Parlay that, you're at +800 for the tight end TD parlay. So that's a $5 to $10 max, and say not even a unit on that. So
Okay.
that's what I got.
I'm always weird. I actually like that you said the Hockenson scoring. So I love Hockenson in the red zone. Hawkinson's problem is his yards after the catch. He's a guy that like just catch the ball and drop, which I love. Hawkinson's got great hands and he's got speed, which like never made any sense to me. He's got to like jump for every catch. It was frustrating, but I still have a lot of love for TJ Hockenson. I miss him in Detroit, but I at the same rate. Um, I think I definitely love Sam Laporta. Like I love his replacement. I love where they're going, and I also love that we're not paying. I love that we're not paying the highest paid tight end in the league to catch the ball and drop. And also, I think my wife had a crush on Hawkinson, so it's
It just
kind of
caps it
nice.
all off.
Yeah, kind of nice to not hear about how handsome Hawkinson is every Sunday with his
Nice,
little
nice.
Goldilocks hair. No, I love Hawk. I can't. Um, yeah, that's of all the player props. What sticks out? Like I would be so as good as like as great as Justin Jefferson is. I'm so weary of taking anybody over 90 yards in a game. Like that just I don't know petrifies me. But like I'm also not a big player prop guy. Um,
If
I
anyone will
would
do it, it's him though.
no, if absolutely
Week in, week out.
and if I were to second your motion on any of those bets you just talked about, I love the tight end bet. Love the tight end scoring tonight, especially on a short week. Guys missing in the secondary on both teams. And the Viking center's out, right? And it's not like what's his face. It's not like Cousins, 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins had a lot of time to throw last week. So, he's going to look to that safety blanket. He's going to look to get the ball out quick. And I love that. I hate this and I hate betting on Thursday night, but like, man, does it feel good if you win. What I love is the under tonight. I love the under. I don't feel confident. Don't feel confident in the Vikings offense. I don't feel confident in either defense, though. That's the one thing. I think the Eagles are going to find ways to score. That's the thing. Like, I think the Eagles are going to score. Like, this game is going to go one of two ways. The Eagles are either going to blow out the Vikings or they're going to win on a last second field goal because they underperformed all night and Cousins had whatever. Like that's how I see this game going. Either way, I see the Eagles winning, but like, don't be stupid and play Eagles money line. Like they're -6. I don't know what the money line is, but like never do that. I have a couple buddies that do that and they're like, oh, it's a lock. Like, yeah, it's a lock till it's not. Right.
Yeah.
Or that game that last year when the Cowboys, I forgot who they played, but they were like -700. They were playing, I forgot who it was. Might have been the Commanders, someone. And a buddy of mine placed a bet. He threw the 700 down and somehow was able to convince his bookie to null that bet, which that bookie should have his head examined. Like, that's crazy. If you lose $100 on the game, you lose $100, right? But like, so, yeah, like, and they lost. Like the Cowboys lost that game. So like, that's why you never, ever, like, I'm not a great gambler, but like, man, never do that dumb shit, no matter how much you think it's a lock, because it's any given Thursday. So my lock, I would say the under 48.5. If you get it at 48.5, if your book for some odd, because I know all these books are a little different. If like you see FanDuel's at 48.5 and like DraftKings at like 48, someone's at 47, then I'd be weary. Then I don't like it. I get all weirded out. I like to see everyone within the same point and a half, like a same point or half point. Once I start to see like someone's got one thing, and so like you just threw out 94 yards, right? If FanDuel's got Jefferson's at 94 and a half, and DraftKings is saying like 85 and a half, that would scare the crap out of me. I'd say get the fuck off. Don't touch that. Whatever, something's going on. Somebody knows something that somebody else doesn't. So that's pretty much all I have on this game. I mean, what I would be looking forward to as a fan of neither team, but kind of wishing the Eagles win, which I know you need the reverse. You need the Vikings to win tonight. I want to see exactly what you said. I want to see Jefferson versus, forget just Slay, like the whole secondary, right? There's a lot of guys out in the secondary. Jefferson, if Kirk gets him the ball, Jefferson should be eating. Hawkinson should be eating. Alexander Madison, is that his name, Alexander?
Yep.
Yeah. Madison, I mean, Fletcher Cox might not play. He's hurt. like, put it this way, I don't know how many yards yet, but you should be closer to the 4 range. I don't really know what Minnesota was thinking getting rid of Cook. I see them selling at some point this year. Like
Probably.
100% I see
They
them
should.
selling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't
I
I don't
mean,
see it.
the Vikings organization as a whole, you got 1 year left of Kirk Cousins. Your defense is depleted. You got rid of Dalvin Cook. You have a wide receiver who's owed big money and is going to reset the market. I can see them also trading Justin Jefferson, just calling it quits and revamping. You know what I mean? And I
Shout
think
out
that
to
they're heading in that
Nelson.
trajectory. Shout out Nelson. Shout out Nelson.
Shout out to Nelson.
Um,
Nelson, thanks for tuning in, pal. I
F tier
begrudgingly took
comment
them to win. Oh, Nelson, my goodness. You said your fandom could be bought last week. What are we going to do with that Giants tattoo? Yeah. Any other? What else sticks? Did you see any other games before we close this out? Do you see any other games that you like in terms of spectating or gambling this week? I see Bears Bucks. That line dropped. That opened at 3.5. It's now at -2. Bucks -2.5. I like Colts. I actually love Colts Texans. Colts Texans. Colts are in Houston, favored by 1.5 right now. That's according to the Barstool Sportsbook. I love that. I think the Colts are pretty good. They're not bad.
Colts shocked me last
Yeah.
week against
Yeah,
the
no.
Jags. Shocked me. So,
Because I don't believe the Jaguars bad.
yeah, no. I mean, Anthony Richardson balled out. I mean, he had a couple
Yeah.
mistakes here and there,
Dude,
but he had a
he
great
looked
game.
like he shocked the shit out of me. He genuinely looked good. He really did.
No, he did. He looked great. And I made, back on my YouTube channel back during the draft, I did with Josh here and the Chad, my buddy Jesse. Shout out Jesse, he's a Commanders fan. They took him at, I think that was fourth overall. That did not shock me at all. I mean, Anthony Richardson, I knew he was going to be a top 10 pick. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, teams that need QBs, top 10, they're going to have Will Levis there. They're going to have, Stroud, and you're going to have obviously Bryce Young. And then everyone's forgetting about Anthony Richardson. And I said, hold on, Will Levis.
I did
So,
not
yeah, no,
like
he looked
Levis.
great.
I did not like Levis one bit.
And
You could
apparently all 32 teams didn't either until he had to go at some point. So, no, Bears, I think they have a big bounce back week. I'm taking them over the Bucks this week. I think that last week was a fluke. They got exponentially better, at least on the defensive side of the ball, with their 2 linebackers that they signed via free agency.
Oh, you think the
Chase
Bears
Claypool
cover?
needs to get. Are they? You said Bucks are favored? No, I didn't take a look at the line.
Yeah, Bucks are -2.5. You think the Bears win that game? You think they cover?
Yeah, I'm taking Bears. I take Bears money line for sure, 100%.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. I'm taking Bears money
Chrissy.
line. Yeah.
Chrissy. Oh, Tampico. I don't like that, Chris. I don't like that one bit.
I'm taking Bears money line. I know that's a risky bet, but I'm taking Bears money line for that plus money because I just don't think that the Bears are going to have I think they're going to have a good season. I think that they're left. There's a lot of question marks surrounding them. I know it's the Bears every single year, but I like what they did in the offseason, and I think Justin Fields is better than what he showed last week. So, yeah, no, other than that, I mean, I'm just looking forward. I'm not going to bet on the Giants game because that'd be foolish of me to do so. But I'm just looking for a bounce back week. I'll see if I'm keeping tabs on Andrew Thomas. I don't know if he's going to play. We got a short week against the 49ers,
What
which
happened
should
to
be a
him?
long, long day. He pulled a hammy when he was chasing down
Okay.
the Cowboys defender on the blocked field goal touchdown.
So
He got
are
hurt
you
also, by the way.
confident? You're confident that the Giants walk into Arizona and win?
Yeah, I think we're 5.5-point favorites right now. Last time I checked the
4.5.
books, they went from
4.5.
4.5 to 5.5. Really? Oh, so it's 5.
You're back
Okay, so
down
it's
to
4.5
4.5. Yeah.
still. All right.
Barstool has you at 4.5.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I'm comfortable with the spread. I don't know if we cover that, but I think we win.
Okay.
I will say I'm hesitant. The only reason I'm hesitant is because listen, I didn't expect much of Arizona coming into
Right.
this season, and what they did, I mean, you could say they outplayed the Commanders for the better part of 3 quarters last week. Because Sam Howell didn't turn it on until
Right.
probably mid-4th quarter. So I'm a little worried. I don't think the Cardinals are pushovers, but I think we win the game.
I think if you make a little money tonight, or you make a little money on some college football Saturday, I don't think it's crazy to sprinkle. I'm not saying this to be a dick, Chris. Not crazy to sprinkle a little on the Arizona money line, not in a straight up bet, right? They're plus 175. So, like, it's not going to make you much. But if you're coming up with like a little parlay of 2 or 3 things you like on a very low, like I'm talking a little, for me, I don't make insane money. Like I'm talking a little $10 parlay, throw the Cardinals in there. And I'm not saying this because I hope they win. I'm not saying it because I think they're going to win. But in the off chance that the Giants are not good and the Cardinals are better than anticipated, right? Because it is a Cardinals home game. Like, I like that the home crowd's there. You know, Giants fans are probably not traveling for this game. It's going to be really hot in Arizona. Like you want to go to Arizona in like November, December. You don't want to go there like right now. It's hot as shit. Like, I don't personally, I mean, maybe Giants fans are going to this game, but
Oh, they'll show up. They'll show up.
no. Yeah.
I'll say this on that game. I think the week 1 is exactly the wake-up call the Giants needed. I'm not talking about the offensive line. I'm talking about the defense. So I feel bad. What's the Arizona backup QB now that Kyler Murray started on suspension?
Right now it's Dobbs. You're talking about Dobbs?
Josh Dobbs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. I think Kayvon, I think Aziz, I think that front line are coming for him. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence. I didn't see anybody out of the Giants front 7 last week except for Dexter Lawrence, who just got paid as well. I didn't see anybody.
Right.
So Kayvon Thibodeaux has some proving to do, and so does Aziz. And I think Josh Dobbs is in for a rude awakening. That being said, you could always be right, and I could just cover my emotional losses as it is.
Chris, I think you guys win this game. Like, I'm not being a dick. I think the Giants win this game, and I hope it's not close. For your sake, for Giants fans' sake, I hope it's not close. And it shouldn't be. You should win by like 10 points. This is a game you should win by 10, 14 points, right? In the NFL, that's a good size lead. You should win by that. I'm just saying, from a gambling perspective, if you have 2 other things in a parlay that you really, really like that you've already bet, throw those same 2 things on a little $10 parlay and throw in the Cardinals, because in the off chance that the Cardinals, so it's like low risk, high reward. If you lose, you lost $10. You lost $20, right? I'm talking low. If you win, like the Cardinals money line of plus 175 in a parlay is going to boost the shit out of those. Like that's going to boost your money big time. So that's the only reason I'm saying, like for example, looking at like this week's games, you really like the Chiefs against the Jaguars. Let's just say, right? You take Chiefs money line. Let's say you really like the Ravens against the Bengals, right? Ravens are actually underdogs. So if you take like Ravens money line, Chiefs money line, and the Cardinals, like I could only imagine. I don't have FanDuel pulled up. I have Barstool Sports, but I have the Score Center pulled up. But like that's got to be a good payout on like a $10, $20 bet. 3-leg parlay.
What's my Bears upset looking like? What's the plus money on that?
It's not insane because they're plus 2.5, so it's plus 120. So like if that's a game you're betting, you're better off taking the Bears with the points at 2.5, because in the event that they lose and they lose by 1 or they lose by 2, you're still covered. Like anytime I see, 2.5, I never take the money line. Never. Like anytime the money line is under like 150, I'll always take the spread, because it's not worth, like, that extra $20 is just not worth it. It's not worth me taking that risk. Like they might lose, right? Outright. Like, but I don't want to lose that bet by a point or 2 or a half. You know what I mean? That's just silly.
Yeah, no, I feel that. No,
When
I
it's
know
that close.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying right now, I like the Bears,
Yeah.
but no, I hear you. I think that's it for me. I mean, minus the outside surprises I saw last week, the Seahawks put up a stinker.
Were you surprised by Detroit? Be honest with me, because I was a little surprised. I picked them, but
I was not.
like third quarter, I thought we were losing. 100%, I thought we were losing. And
I
like
was
before the game, I was
surprised.
like, we're gonna win. Third quarter, I was like, we just lost. After Brian Branch picked him off, I was like, oh, we're back.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I wasn't surprised. I told you last week on when we did this on Thursday that I was high on you guys, even before that game. Ever since you all spanked us around and I saw the X's and O's of the Giants game last year. I think you guys beat us like 34-13, if I'm not mistaken. I could be just pulling that score out of my butt, but like that's what I think it was. Um, no, just everything about the Lions and the way that they're going, and not only just like the talent and the X's and O's of the ins and outs of your roster, but just the way you guys play. And the way that, like we said, and Jerry said last week as well, that the way that Dan Campbell prepares them every week is like the aura is just different. You know what I mean? Who are you guys playing this week?
we have, why am I blanking on this? We have the Seahawks. That line opened up at 4.5, shot up to 5.5. I saw 6 in some places, and now I'm seeing it back at 4.5. Um, I already
Yeah, I don't
bet.
know
I
if I'm
bet the
taking
game
the
the other
spread in
day.
that.
Yeah, what's what makes I think so. The issue, I think, the reason that this may have dropped is because it looks like we're not sure if our left tackle is going to play, Taylor Decker, which would, I'm gonna assume that means Penei Sewell moves from right to left, and then we'll throw Matt Nelson at right. But both of the Seahawks tackles, I think their starting left tackle went to IR. One of their tackles went to IR. I think it's their left tackle, and their right tackle looks like he's not playing either. So they're playing with two backup tackles. Like, Lions fans should be loud at this game. They're going to show up in the ski masks. Like, you should smack. How funny is that? How funny is that?
That's awesome. I love that.
Um, yeah, like they should come out and they should win that game. And they should win it
Yeah.
convincingly. I'm not going to predict a score. Over unders at 47.5. I don't, if gun to my head, I would take the over, but I don't really know. But I like Lions spread, but I'm a Lions fan. So I can't, I'm biased, but that's about it. That's all I really like this week. And you got anything else, Chris?
No, man, it should be a great week. Football season's back, regardless of how the Giants did week one. I'm on to week two. We'll see. This week, I think for the Giants, just talk about the Giants and end it with that. I think that if we lose this game, this is our season. I think this is our only chance to recuperate that. We have coming up, we have the Niners on a short week. And the next couple of weeks, we'll also have the Jets. That defense will give us a fit. I think that's week 6, give or take. I'm not positive. We have the Bills, Dolphins coming up as well. So we're playing the entire AFC East. I think that every single one of those teams are better than the Giants, minus the New England Patriots, who knows? They played a great game week one too. So it's I'm not underestimating any team at this point with the way our offensive line is shaking up. But that's all I got. I appreciate all of the heads in the comments commenting. I appreciate the support. Make sure you thumbs up the video as well. I appreciate you guys commenting. Hit that thumbs up. Support the stream. Go over to Sunny Days Media as well. So you have a Sunny Days Media right here. Sunny Days Media
Yeah.
516. Go subscribe to his channel as well.
Yeah. Chris, before we jump out, you want to give a little plug for all your stuff, your
Yeah,
accounts and
no,
everything
man,
you
I
do?
appreciate that. At CPNY Sports across the board on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I have this streaming to my YouTube as well. Hopefully, will be a regular thing hopping up on Thursday with you all, talking some football, Thursday night matchups, some bets, all that good stuff. Just dropped the Knicks pod. I'm going to be doing more Knicks content with basketball season rolling around. Perhaps got some Rangers content in the works as well with my buddy Aaron, who popped in here. I do the Feeling Blue podcast, Giants podcast with him as well. So just trying to diversify my channel, talk about all things sports, all encompassing into one channel. So if you're rocking with what I got, tell your friends, subscribe to the channel. About 124 subscribers right now. So been grinding over the last 3-4 months ever since I started this channel. So I appreciate everyone's support. And I appreciate you having me on here.
Chris, when's the Knicks pod dropping? Do you have a date?
I have the True Knicks Talk podcast. I dropped the first episode. I've been making Knicks content, but under my new logo, under the True Knicks Talk brand. I dropped the podcast yesterday, so it's already out. It's regarding Emmanuel
Oh,
Quickly
okay.
and his status. moving forward with the Knicks, but I'm going to be trying to do a true Knicks talk pod every week. Maybe every other week until the season starts late October.
And
So that'll be out regularly.
all of that can be found on your YouTube channel at CPMY
All of that.
Sports. Okay.
I have playlists. Go to the playlist section or podcast section. I have all my playlists curated and organized. I do Interstate Mets with Nelson. Feeling Blue is a Giants pod. We do live streams and pre-recorded episodes reviewing all that stuff. I have the Roundtable podcast that I do with Talking Mets with Rob Nelson. So a lot of Mets, a lot of Knicks, a lot of Giants so far, and a lot of NFL with you all too. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing that. We got a lot of stuff going on. I'm a busy man.
This should be this not should be, will be a regular Thursday night thing every week. As long as you're around, you're on every Thursday. With usually Jerry wasn't able to be here tonight. He had some work stuff going on, but thank you all. We had a few view. We had a little more toward the end. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate all the subscribers. And Chris, I appreciate you. Thank you for helping me with all of this. I'm not tech proficient at all. You have helped set up all of everything that all the viewers see here was either done by Chris or literally walked through via like FaceTime to explain to me how to do, which now hopefully some of that information could set into my thick skull. But
my pleasure, man.
Thank you very much, Chris. None of this happens without you. You could find us on YouTube at Sunny Days Media 516. If you go on sunnydaysinflushing.com, we have blogs on obviously the Lions, a lot of Jets content as hockey season starts to ramp up. Rangers and Islanders content. Mark and Jerry are our Rangers and Islanders writers. So they're going to start ramping up coming up this month. And obviously season opening, I think it's October 14th hockey season opens up, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Either second or third week of October.
Yeah, something like that. So go on there. We put up blogs, hopefully doing more video stuff here from Sunny Days Media on YouTube. Every Thursday night and every Sunday morning, we are going to have a show. Thursday nights, we fluctuate between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. And Sunday mornings should be between 9 and 10 a.m., depending on everyone's availability. But subscribe to our channel, turn on your notifications, and every time we are going live or scheduled to go live, it will alert you as long as you have those alerts on. Chris, Same thing with you. Subscribe to CPMY Sports on YouTube. Keep his alerts on so you know when Chris is going live. I made the mistake of subscribing. Not a mistake. I mean, it's a good thing. But I subscribed to Chris on and other channels on Sunny Days and also my personal account and started getting notifications twice and thought my phone was broken. So that goes to show you how much I know about technology.
Hey, the more CP, the better, right?
The more CP, the better. Listen, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Thank you to anyone watching this post after we record. And Chris, we'll talk again this weekend and we'll see you all again next Thursday. Thank you all for tuning in. Go Giants, go Lions.